right? Kim, what use? Na, for us. Tat, about him. Kataya, with discussion. Gopya, O gopis. Kata, topics. Katayata, please narrate. Aparaha, other. Yati, asma, it passes. Asmabi, us. Vina, without. Kala, time. Yadi, if. Tasya, his. Tata eva, in the very same way. Na, ours. Translation. Why bother talking about him, dear Gopi? Please talk of something else. If he passes his time without us, then we shall similarly pass ours without him. So you can repeat, why bother talking about him? Dear Gopi, please talk of something else. If he passes his time without us, then we shall similarly pass ours without him. So the purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Swami points out that the gopis here subtly indicate that Lord Krishna spends his time happily without them, whereas they are most unhappy without their Lord. This is the difference between him and them. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds the following commentary. Considering themselves different from other women, the gopis thought as follows. If other women are together with their lovers, they live, and if they are separated, they die. But we neither live nor die. This is the fate Providence has written on our foreheads. What remedy can we find? So I'll read the commentaries of the acharyas. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, pretty much we heard some of it already, but I'll read some of it. Other gopis agitated by love and the mood of jealousy spoke to the gopis who had just spoken. And that's the verse or the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that was spoken by the followers of Srila Prabhupada. So now we'll read Jiva Goswami's commentary. Afflicted by intense grief, they speak to each other. There is no use in speaking about him. We will just suffer by doing so. O gopis with soft, innocent natures. But it is a fact that we cannot give him up. We are afflicted with grief. What should we do? Speak about something else. According to the principle of the best medicine for relieving great lamentation is not thinking of it. It is possible to overcome grief by covering that subject with a different topic. We should not think that without him we cannot pass our time. Just as he could pass his time without us, some man there, anger. We can pass our time without him, Tataiva. From the time of separation till now, not one of us has died, or just he is happily passing his time. We can also pass our time happily. Showing lack of grief in spite of great grief indicates even greater inner grief because of tolerating it. Wow. They were externally showing lack of grief because of the man, you understand, the anger covered their grief. When they were really angry at him, but actually internally they were experiencing even great, sometimes, if we get really angry, we forget, or at least don't manifest our grief or other emotions there. So, all right, so we'll go back to the verse. Kim nas tat kataya gopya Kata kata yata paraha yat jasma bir bina kalo yadita shatatayavana. Somagana timirandasha gananjana shlakaya chakshur unmeditam yena tasmai shigurave namaha. So, before getting on to the actual topic of this particular verse, which is they're unable to forget Krishna no matter what they do, or stop talking about Krishna no matter what they do, I just want to comment on something regarding yesterday's class, which is really got me thinking because the gopis' relationship with Krishna is like Kamanuga, and the other devotees' relationships, the other pure devotees, is Sambandha Nuga. It's really interesting. So I was thinking about the difference because in Sambandha Nuga, you actually have a defined relationship. What do I mean? Because we talked yesterday about society, how the gopis, remember after class we talked about this, or some of you may remember it was actually after class, how the gopis really did something that was completely out of normal society, society activities, relationships, and they rejected by their activities, they were rejected and rejected normal society norms, society norms. And basically by their activities, they renounced their prestige, reputation. We talked about this yesterday. The reputation in Indian society, many of you didn't hear this discussion, but reputation in Indian society is like one of the most important things. People would kill their child because of reputation. Even, of course, we have the Muslims who killed children. I had friends who renounced their children. I don't have any friends who killed their children, but I have friends who renounced their children just because their child married someone outside of their particular culture. I went to their house, and I said, how's your daughter doing? And they said, daughter? We never had a daughter. So this reputation is so important. So in Indian culture, it's very important to understand that. And, of course, we find in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. So that's among Kshatriyas, but in general, in Indian culture, reputation is important. So the gopis renounced the most valuable thing in society. They basically became rejected, excuse me, rejected from society because of their activities. So getting back to the point of Kamanuga and Sambandhanuga, So Sambandhanuga means there is some defined relationship. For example, what is Mother Yashoda's relationship with Krishna? It's a very defined relationship, isn't it? It's a mother. Everybody understands, no matter what culture you go to, there's always a concept of a mother. I hope so. I mean, I can't think of any culture. I mean, maybe they don't treat their mothers properly, but there's always mother, son, mother, daughter, right? And, the coward boys, what's their relationship? Friendship. I think every culture you have friends, don't you? I hope so. I mean, even in the lowest, I don't want to say Aborigines are lowest because I'll get in trouble because some people think the Aborigines are higher than us. But anyway, they talk about the noble, noble people in the forest. Anyway, so even there you have friendship. You have mothers, you have fathers, right? These are all defined relationships. And you also have servants, right? That's a defined relationship. Just like in the guru-disciple relationship, the disciple is supposed to be the servant of the guru. That's it. Supposed to be. Of course, we hope. So anyway, so you have that defined relationship, or someone who really appreciates, who just like worships you. Just like recently there was some famous singer who married a football person. Anyway, I'm not going to mention their names. And, people just, there's a relation. I am their worshiper, right? It's a very defined relationship. I've seen videos. Oh, they're getting married. They're engaged. Well, they're getting engaged. So, very defined relationship. And marriage is also a very defined relationship, isn't it? And nowadays, according to our militia culture, they've actually defined a relationship boyfriend-girlfriend, right? I mean, there's one famous podcaster. I watch his podcast sometimes. He's has a lot of insight into different things. I'm not saying his moral principles are actually in the highest level, but, he talks about his girlfriend, significant other. There's different names. These are defined relationships. But although we talk about the gopis being girlfriends of Krishna, it's in Vedic culture, it's not really a defined relationship. Of course, you have prostitutes, but they're not prostitutes. It's not a defined relationship. So the relationship is just based upon pleasing Krishna. There's no definition. It's just we want to please the senses of Krishna. I'm talking about kama. There was this discussion about kama yesterday, which is part of the verse. The word kama wasn't used in the verse yesterday. Let's look at the verse. So the word was smara, which actually is translated as by lust. And it's interesting that, yesterday Amarendra was talking about how generally the gopis' relationship with Krishna, it's either, kama or smara. And, of course, there's also prema. It's the highest stage of prema. But still, the other gopis experience, the other devotees, the pure devotees, they experience prema, but you don't talk about Mother Yashoda's relationship with Krishna as smara or kama. Even though I pointed out yesterday, she does give her body to Krishna because she gives her milk to Krishna. She's surrendered to Krishna. And the devotees surrender, body, mind, and words to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the gopis' relationship is lust because they're trying enthusiastically to please Krishna's lust, which is not lust, it's love. But anyway, their only desire is to please Krishna, and they're willing to reject society. They're willing to go to hell, right? They don't consider, and the other devotees, when they're thinking about going to hell, like Narada Muni approached the other devotees, they said, we don't want to commit this offense against Krishna. And the gopis just know, because there's no defined relationship. There's kamanugas, that we simply want Krishna to be happy. So we read this here, this particular verse, and we're thinking, well, it sounds like the gopis are just thinking about their own happiness. So we look at it from our perspective. Like if I'm missing someone, like, for example, I'm missing Prabhupada, right? But actually I'm thinking of how could I enjoy Prabhupada, being in Prabhupada's presence. I have to be honest, I'm not such a great devotee. I'm not thinking, just like one time myself and Rita Nandamars were with Prabhupada, and we were trying to enjoy Prabhupada. I told the story many times before. We flew from one part of the country to another, and I told the story the other day that I actually told my father I wanted to see him, but actually I didn't want to see him, and I only saw my father who paid for the tickets. And they flew from the other part, and Prabhupada was looking at us. What that? He didn't use the word hell. He didn't say what, but his intention was, what doing? You're trying to enjoying. You have to serve the spiritual master. Of course, for a few seconds I understood that. But, because in other words, I miss Prabhupada, getting back to the point, because I really like to see Prabhupada, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, at least I like to see Prabhupada. But it's about me. It's not really about Prabhupada. It's about me. I mean, I really have to be honest about it. And you find that most religion, I was thinking about this morning. Actually, hopefully I get to the topic of what I want to speak about. But most religions, or most religious people, not all religious people, it's always about them. I mean, you take, generally, Jesus died for our sins. It's about us. And even I was thinking in the religion I grew up with, forgive me, mother-in-law, that we would celebrate this holiday, Rosh Hashanah, which is our Janmashtami. Not really. Which is like, well, it's like, it's the New Year's. Yeah, it's not Janmashtami. And then, it's just about us, basically. And then right after that comes another holiday, Prayaschitta, right? The Prayaschitta holiday, Yom Kippur. Forgive me if my pronunciation is wrong. And that's a day when you fast and you just say to God, forgive me. It's about me. It's not about God. It's about, forgive me. I've done, you fast. I was able to fast for about an hour. Fortunately, I was a Reform Jew, so we didn't fast much. It's the only fast day of the year. Another fast day? Maybe for you, but not for me. So anyway, so we fast for half a day, and the whole day is, forgive me, Lord, for this, whatever I did this year, whatever, that I watched too many video games. What? And so, but it's about me. And how much, at least in my religious background, practically nothing was about God. Practically, I mean, you hear some history, which is interesting, about Moses and all those other nice people. But it's interesting. It's the culture, my culture. We're the chosen people. Hate to tell you all that. But anyway, so it's all about me, or at least not all of it. Some of it was about glorifying God. And, you have some ceremonies where you glorify the Torah, you sing gospel, right? Where you go around. And, practically I wouldn't say all, because that's an absolute term, but most of the religious practices are about the person, isn't it? Not so much about God. And in because you can't really have so much about God until you know about God. I mean, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, you can know God is great. He's in your heart. Whatever, which is kind of nice. But at the same time, all these, exactly what Krishna is, what he looks like, and everything like that. These are, pretty much, I mean, there's some exceptions, I understand. Not being absolute in my presentation. But, pretty much the Krishna consciousness movement, I was thinking, wow. It's everything. I mean, even Hinduism is basically about us. Me, most of Hinduism. I was thinking, like yesterday, someone said you should be celebrating, what was it, a Ganesh Chaturthi yesterday. So, it's not about Krishna or even about Ganesh. It's just about me. Or Lakshmi Puja, right? Why do people do Lakshmi Puja? What? Tell me. To get money. But the devotees, they serve Krishna to please Krishna, and especially the gopis. They're absolute renunciates. No other devotees are such sannyasis like the gopis. Sannyas. Sannyas means accepting and rejecting. Accepting everything favorable, rejecting. So the gopis absolutely personify sannyas. So I just wanted to make that point. So that's I found it very interesting. Yesterday in Amarendra's class, there's this kama, smara, as compared to just regular prema. I just really like that the discussion. I was just thinking about that. I was thinking about that all day long. How defined relationships and undefined relationships, and it's just Krishna, and they're just trying to please the senses of Krishna. Okay, so now we'll get down to the main topic. The main topic, and I'm going to making some reference here to the Madhurya Kadambini, which is actually one of my favorite books. I'm taking up some of my notes from the Madhurya Kadambini. The main topic here is that the gopis just can't forget Krishna, or can't forget trying to please Krishna. And his beautiful smiling glances here. Oops. Anyway, let's go back to the verse. Yeah, if you pass this time without us, in the previous verse it talked about Krishna's beautiful smiling glances. They awaken their desire to please him. It's mentioned lust, but awakens their intense desire, which doesn't have any other ulterior purpose or relationship, because relationship is an ulterior purpose. I mean, not a material purpose, but it's a secondary purpose. But there's no secondary purpose to the gopis' lust to simply please the senses of Krishna. Anyway, so they can't forget Krishna. So I'm going to be talking about the different stages of devotional service. And in certain stages, you have more or less remembrance of Krishna. And certain stages, you have complete remembrance of Krishna, like we're hearing about the gopis here. So, of course, the Madhurya Kadambini deals with the progress of devotional service from Shraddha to Prema, and even the higher stages of Prema, which we probably won't get to in class. So, when you start devotional service, I mean, the very first connection is called Shraddha, when you have some interest or trust in the scriptures, and you have some. Actually, it's interesting. There's two types of Shraddha. There's natural and forced Shraddha. Natural means you have some attraction due to what? Past lifetime. Like Krishna mentions in the Gita, that if you don't make it in devotional service in this lifetime, one of the things that happens is that you take birth in a devotee family, or you take birth in a rich family, naturally you're attracted to the process of devotional service. So force would be, that basically you're born in a Hare Krishna family, and your parents send you to Gurukul. Anyway, so, but still, even in the beginning, you really have a lot of trouble thinking of Krishna. It's just like a particle, like a small particle. And your material attachments, as described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, are absolute. That's interesting. I mean, absolute means it's basically practically ain't nothing else there. Absolute attachments. And then when you start to associate with the devotees, and this also relates to Rupa Goswami's descriptions of the benefits of pure devotional service too, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. When you begin to associate with devotees, it's, of course, sadhu sangha, and you associate advanced devotees, and you get a little shadow ecstasy in doing so. Your still material attachments are pretty much pervading your whole life. They're not really absolute, and you get glimpses now and then, and you get a trace of other things, just a trace or a hint or a coming attraction like that. And then when you really start to execute devotional service, that's called bhajana kriya, you really get into the real nectar at that point. And you begin to remember Krishna, very partially from time to time you remember Krishna. But you still have a lot of material attachments in the beginning. But even so, you do get relieved from distress. Distress means basically the whoops. Oh my God, I had not enough time. So, which basically means the whole process of kuta, bija, uh, the activity, aparabdha karma, parabdha karma, and the whole cycle like that begins to be cut off, and your life becomes auspicious at that particular point, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and the Madhurya Kadambini. And as you begin to cleanse all these things in the heart, then you begin to have more and more remembrance of Krishna. Then you get steady in devotional service. But in steady devotional service, you try to think of Krishna, but somehow or other, when you're trying to think of Krishna, guess what? Without your even wanting to, the mind just goes to, right? Goes to something else. Maybe not Maya. I mean, just like you're chanting your japa and you're thinking of what you have to do during the day. Like that. And that's, of course, if you're thinking of what you have to do during the day for Krishna, that's good. Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagno, Brahmano Hutam, Brahmatena Gantavya, Brahma Karma Samadhanam. I mean, if you're meditating on it, but during japa, you're not supposed to really be meditating on that. You're supposed to be meditating on the holy name during japa. So you have somehow or other. But that's, in this stuff, you still may have that, but you're still steady in devotional service. You're very steady, but your mind tends, when you're not being attentive, it tends to gravitate towards non-Krishna. Like that. So you have to be careful. So then, after you get to Nishta, this is really interesting. You get to Ruchi. You start to get a real taste for devotional service. And then Krishna, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I mean, there may be other descriptions, then you really start to get more and more absorbed in Krishna. Still there's some material things that come from time to time. And at this point, you're deriding liberation, or impersonal liberation, that is. And so that's the Ruchi's platform. Then we get to Shakti. And Shakti is very interesting because in your meditation, you can't tell how you're trying to think of Maya. Not that you should try to think of Maya. But sometimes the mind is thinking of Maya, and it just goes to Krishna. Let's say if you're married and your wife wants to talk to you about how she needs new saris. Interesting example. Earrings, new saris. But your mind just goes to Krishna, and she says, "You're not paying attention to me." And you're thinking, hell no, this is stupid. But anyway, sorry about that, Mother. Because your mind automatically goes, even if you're at work, let's say you're trying to program a computer or something like that, and your mind just goes to Krishna. You can't tell. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it says you can't detect how the mind goes automatically to Krishna from Maya. That'd be wonderful to be at that stage, isn't it? I mean, I would love to be in that stage. Phew. Whenever I think about the news, anyway, then my mind doesn't go automatically to Krishna. And so you're really absorbed in Krishna at this particular point. And so the gopis, their mind automatically goes to, but there's no thought of Maya with the gopis. You understand? There's absolutely no thought. The mind is automatically 100%, 24 hours a day, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. It's intense absorption in Krishna. In the stage of bhava, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it's complete and all-pervasive. But in the stage of prema, especially in the case of the gopis, then it's intense, super intense. And so let's just go back over the stages or the benefits of devotional service. In the stage of bhava, Srila Rupa Goswami says this one gets to the point of is rarely achieved. Bhava is very rarely achieved. And of course, there's two types of meditation. One is an awe and reverence of Krishna, because you have devotees who are doing devotional service according to rules and regulations, and you have devotees who are Raghunuga devotees. You have Vaidhi and Raghunuga. So at a certain point, I mean, not that we neglect Vaidhi, but at a certain point, we have to come to that point of Raghunuga bhakti if we actually want to enter into Braj. So, and that's rarely achieved. And then finally, when you get to prema, and of course the gopis are the topmost aspect of prema, then you have happiness, unlimited happiness, basically, and only in prema, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it's the only means to attract Krishna. So you have these six different items that are mentioned in the Nectar Devotion, Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. And as I said, your meditation or on Krishna, there's no question of ever thinking of Maya at that point. So if any of you ever think on Maya, about Maya, that means you're not in prema. So I have to admit, Maya. Maya, of course, means I and mine. So your I and mine consciousness, which is described as, your material attachments, is absent, completely absent, absolutely absent at that particular point. And that's the standard of prema. And of course, prema goes to higher stages. I mean, I have so much other information I wanted to read, but there's not time. Which is described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Let me just read this. This is really beautiful. The devotee's innumerable chitta vritti thoughts were previously bound tightly by the ropes of attachment to family, relatives, house, and properties. However, when prema appears, it easily frees the thoughts from all those attachments. By its inherent power, prema transforms these material emotions into spiritually blissful elements, as if submerging them all in a deep well of transforming nectar. Similarly, all the attachments become spiritualized. Then with the ropes of spiritual attachment, prema binds the spiritualized emotions to the sweetness of the Lord's name, form, and qualities. Really beautiful. Prema manifests its brilliance in this way and immediately puts all material ideals, purusharthas, to shame, as the sun puts to shame all the constellations in the sky. Isn't that beautiful? Wow. Okay, that's all we have time for. Sorry about that. No questions today. All glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada. Ki Jai.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvantam Aravindadalayataksham Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarantam Kandar Akom Vitamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adi
Adi Purusham.
Tamaham Bhajami Govindam.
Namalam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Buddhale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samini Namine Vishnu Padaya Namaste Saraswati Devi Gormani Vacha Megini Visesha Shunyavate Vachaja Satarine Jaya Shri Krishna Ramana Janana Jadvaita Karnana Sinasade Norvatana Chaitanya Ramana Janana Shri Krishna Nirana Pramanityananda Krishna, Radha Shiva Sade, going back to Brenda. Krishna Chaitanya Ramanityananda Raja Radha Shiva Sade Narvatu Brenda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare, Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hey, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe, Jai Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahansa, Paravacharya, Osatara,
A reminder that we'll be having Harinam Sankirtan Saturday at 11:30 in the morning at Weaver Street Market here in Hillsborough. It's going to be a really nice day. So please come, and we can give the holy name to lots and lots of folks. Chaitodarbana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Beyond, you don't need philosophy when you see the deities like that. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Pranamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahudani Sarva Shaktis Tatrapitani Amitas Smaranena Kala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajani Nanuraga Trinada Pisunichena Tarora Pisuhishuna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamae Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhava Bhaktir Ohaitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vabada Pankaja Stita Duli Saja Shimvachintaya Nayanam Gadashru Daraya Varanam Gad Gadaridaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vabhukada Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishava Padamrtamanastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatava vidadatu lampato mat prananatastu sa eva napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for it. One meant the holy name of the Lord, in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and in such a state